Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Keptn community meeting and developer meeting. I will just mute, or oh no, he's back. So for today, we have planned a couple of interesting things, and let's kick it off with the first agenda item. Before that, I just want to announce Keptn is a CNCF project. We are right now going through this incubation process, but with being a CNCF project, that also means we're following the CNCF code of conduct. So for the agenda for today for our community meeting, let me first share a couple of interesting things, news around the Keptn project. And for this edition, it's basically, we want to already announce that Keptn will be at KubeCon. So we will be there live. There will be talks, there will be activities around Keptn at KubeCon. I've linked here the talks. So if you will find the talks here, or basically it just goes to the schedule, but you can just search for Keptn. There will be a couple of different talks by Keptn maintainers and Keptn contributors, but also by others, like Anna will be talking about Keptn. There will be another session from the SIG events done by Andrea. So yeah, make sure to check out these sessions if you're interested in them just by clicking on the schedule and searching for Keptn. Then there is another thing that we are going to participate in this edition of KubeCon. It's the Bug Bash. It's a special program where we invite the whole Keptn community and also others that want to join the Keptn community to smash some bugs that might be found in the Keptn code base. There are a couple of participating projects, and Keptn is one of them, and you will find all the information also via this link. I'm pretty sure there might be some prizes for winner teams, but you will find everything in this link, and the list of bugs will be provided there as well. Another thing, you can join us for office hours during the week of KubeCon. So if you have any questions around the project, if you want to get a short introduction to the project, you can join our office hours. It will be 1 hour with maintainers of the project and with Keptn contributors. And yeah, we're happy to talk to you during these office hours. And one last thing, if you happen to be there in person, talk to us at the booth. I know Rob will be there, and I will just handing over to Rob in a minute. But Rob will be there, Andy will be there, Kyle will be there. There's a couple of Keptn maintainers and Keptn contributors at the booth. So make sure to also visit us at the booth if you happen to be at KubeCon. So with that, I will be handing over to Rob. He already we already edited this agenda item prior this week. So we will be learning more about the Keptn automation repository. And then later on, we will have a look at the list of open PRs from the community. And also I see some others from the community are joining. So everyone, please add yourself here in this list if you're joining. And we can also talk about open questions on anything around Keptn. Since there are other meetings going on, we try to keep this meeting a little bit short, but Rob, please take your time to explain us the Keptn automation part, and we are really looking forward to hear more from you. Just as an announcement that if we don't meet the full hour, that's perfectly fine, because I know that also Johannes has to run a little bit earlier today. Let's try to keep everything within the first couple of minutes and hours. Cool. So, Rob, the stage is all yours. I will stop sharing, and yeah, it's still recording, so you can just go ahead and share.
All right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. So yeah, just maybe as a way of introduction, I work for Dynatrace as well. I'm in a different area than the R&D guys of Johannes and the Keptn team. So I work a lot with our partners, and so what's important to me is really how we can bridge Keptn into these ecosystem of tools. So we really want to showcase maybe we'll be doing some upcoming things with webhooks, but certainly being able to integrate quality gates into external tooling is, been a primary use case. So today, what I've done is build an example that was in GitHub Actions. So if you guys haven't seen Microsoft GitHub Actions in action, I'll definitely demo that to you. But that it's another pipelining tool and that can support basically executing steps similar to many pipeline tools. One of them can be a Docker container. So the way GitHub has structured their steps, they call them actions, and there's a lot of pre-built actions within GitHub workflows that come out of the box. There's actually a marketplace, and you can put those in there. But you can also run, which is what I'm going to demo, basically just a container step. So you can say, just like you say Docker run, blah, 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 you can add basically that into your pipeline. And so what I'm going to demo today is basically taking some of the logic that we typically do to call the Keptn CLI, and that's kind of containerized in a repo, which I've actually put out in the Keptn sandbox. So everyone can check it out. Hopefully you'll see that. You'll see the code example that I'm going to demo. And yeah, I'd love to get feedback. So this is kind of why I'm here, just to kind of contribute to the community. And so with that said, I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. And so what I have a couple pictures, and I don't have anything really PowerPointy presented, but where I am is, I'll put this in the link as we kind of share stuff, share to everyone. So this is the sample repo that I have that is, and I'll kind of show this picture here, that's showing a little broader use case of the automation of the quality gates. So in my example, I have a Kubernetes cluster. Here I am installed with Dynatrace. So as part of deploying my application, I want to use, in my case, I'm just using and I'll show you the details of deploying my individual charts into my application environment to have the application be there. Within Dynatrace, there are things that I want to configure also in my pipeline related to rules for how things get named and stuff like that, and then informing Dynatrace that something took place. And then we're going to run this SLO validation, which we usually call quality gates. So I'm using, and we could do both. I'll kind of show you both kind of cases where we configure the SLOs through a dashboard. You can also have the definitions of the SLI and SLO files as part of the project. And then we can control whether the results of the SLO validation stop or allow our pipeline to proceed. So there's a couple different examples. All the links are in this README of kind of where stuff lives. So let me just kind of just demo. Maybe the easiest way is the SLO validation, and then I'll kind of reverse engineer back how I actually did it. So as I was mentioning, this is all based on GitHub Actions. So if you've been in GitHub and you see this thing called Actions and you wonder what that is their pipelines. So you can have within a given repository one-to-many individual pipeline jobs. And you can see here I have my SLO validation. And I'm just going to go ahead and run it, and then I'll kind of, like I said, explain what it's doing behind the scenes as we watch it. So what I've done is you can, just like a lot of pipelining tools, you can push in your code and have it automatically triggered. If, for example, you did a PR to merge request to master, for example, that can automatically trigger something. But in this case, you also have an option to manually trigger a workflow. So let's just go ahead and watch what this is doing. And you can visually see, it's kind of running here quickly. So what it's, as I mentioned, every step sort of natively is sort of a container that's running. So in this case, I'll show you the code, and I went pretty quick, is I've encapsulated the calling of Keptn inside of this container, and we'll look at that code, how it did it. And you can see I've kind of invoked two commands within my step here. So one, I just was more for debugging and things like that. I can say, hey, Keptn, run the CLI, the Keptn CLI command, get project. So this is sort of validating my URL and my token. And I'll show you where that's configured. And I could see what's happening in the output. And then when I run my SLO evaluation, the way this is encapsulated is within a shell script, and I'll show you that. And what it's doing is taking the parameters that you typically would want to pass to evaluate something, the project service stage. There's different ways you can do things. I'm kind of using basically the default. Give me the last 5 minutes from now. I can add in all my Keptn labels. And then basically it's kind of going through the command, and you can actually see what it's actually executing. So, because again, it's running the Keptn CLI. I'm not calling the API. So it's basically Keptn trigger evaluation, taking those parameters I did. You would get back your Keptn context ID, and then it's basically polling for that to be available. And when it's done, you can see actually it only took one attempt, it got it right away, or actually attempt two, got it right away. And then you can see this is the results from the Keptn, get results of that evaluation. So this is all the raw data that comes back in the payload. And then at the end, there's some logic I've added to control the quote unquote quality gate. So I have different ways you can evaluate it. I can ignore this came back with an overall status of actually, like it came back with a warning result, right? So it came back with a warning result, and which then I pull that out warning, and then my rule is basically I don't care what the result is. I'm just gonna let the pipeline pass no matter what my score is, right? So my score was 80. It came back as a warning. And I'll show you how we can just, there's a feature of like, fail on warning, or fail if there's a failure, or just ignore the result. I don't care. And then you can see here, I've got, I can go back to my Keptn bridge, which I have open. So in my case, I am using the web UI of the cloud automation platform. But it is basically the Keptn bridge, same UI, and you can see I'm running the 0.92. So you can see in my case, this is the one that I just ran right before the call here. And I can see it's got executed. These are all my labels by GitHub, my run ID, because I've added in a label back to my job, I can click on that and it will actually open to that job we were just looking at. But then you can see the results, this is the raw data that you saw, just sort of displayed in there. And then I can actually look at, the raw, close. I can look at the raw, not the raw, but the graph of each test run here. So that's probably what you guys have seen in other community meetings, sort of demonstrating that. So with that all said, I don't know if you guys, Jürgen or Johannes, had any questions, but if not, I'll jump into some of the details. But any comments or questions at this point? Or anything coming in as questions?
It depends on what we see next. So
okay.
I'll just let you present because what I would be interested in, how is it defined, and how can you use what you have done? How can I use it? Maybe you can show us the GitHub action,
Yep.
and then we will see how we can use it. But it's
perfect.
Cool, we already see the action. Thanks for.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so this is good. So I wanted to show you what what we were trying to do, and then reverse engineer it back for you guys. All right, so now I'll put this link in so you guys can check it out while we're talking. So what I've done is in the Keptn sandbox, put this project, which I just called Keptn automation. And there's a little bit of a README file here, but you can see it's a repo that contains basically the Keptn CLI binary and a couple of scripts for some of the use cases that usually require a little bit of logic that you're typically doing over and over again, right? So I'll walk through that. So how is it built? It's very simple. We'll look at the Docker file first, so you can see what all it's doing is in the Docker image. It's a Linux kind of base image, and these are the commands that I was always running, like download the CLI of a particular version I'm interested in, and then expand it. So when you run this container, you're basically just passing in the command you want to run. So, and you'll see what I've done to automate that is through a couple of shell scripts. So in the directory, there are three scripts. So inside of the repo are three scripts. They're simple. We'll start with the Keptn one because that's probably the easiest one. So when you run it, the Docker container is expecting that you have passed it your Keptn base URL and token, because you need that to do you need that to do the authentication. So what I'm doing, again, some of these commands are so that you don't expose the token in the output. You'll see that in a second. So basically, what it's doing is these commands. First, it's doing a Keptn auth with your token and entry point. And then if you're doing debug mode, it'll just run the verbose flag. And then it's running this sort of symbol. If you're not familiar with Unix, this is basically taking whatever you passed in as the arguments, the full set of arguments, into this script. So if you say keptn.sh and you pass in 10 parameters, that little symbol is how it grabs everything you passed in. And then if you notice here, there's also a see how it gets implemented, but we're going to, depending on the Keptn command, you may need to pass into the Docker container files like the shipyard file or your SLI files or SLO files. So what you'll typically do is you can mount into the Docker image and I'll show you here we do it. So in this Keptn automation thing, because I have to test this, there's a test folder. And so in there, then there's a test library. So when you to run like a Keptn command, this is basically the syntax. So this is how you could test it locally. So Docker run, you're passing in your environment variables. For debugging, you can also just pass in the mount path so it can kind of basically display it in the debug mode. But then this is how you would mount the volume, right? So make a volume of your local files. This is now a mount point inside of the Docker container, and then it's running the Keptn command with whatever you want. So example Keptn commands could be get project, it could be delete project, it could be create project, and you can see here now I'm specifying files that need to take place, or I can specify any Keptn CLI command you can now basically pass in to this container. And what the Keptn command is doing, it's authenticating the CLI and then running the command itself. And so if we look back at the GitHub action, okay, let me show you one more thing. The other command that's in here is since we're looking at quality gates, the other script that's in here is the SLO validation script. So what this is expecting is some of those parameters you saw, debugging, what's my evaluation rule, defaults to ignore, what's my test strategy. In this case, it's detached, that's just the detail of when you invoke quality gates from remotely. And then there's some output just showing you what you passed in. And what it's doing internally, just like the last one, it first needs to authenticate the CLI. Then it's building the Keptn trigger evaluation against the project stage service that you passed in. This is just a way if you had passed in a time frame or a start time or maybe the start and stop time. So these are different ways. So this is just some logic to deal with based on how you passed in the parameters and whether the parameters were passed. Will either set the time frame with the start, or use start end as the options. And then here, if you pass in labels, which we are, then it'll tack the labels on, and then it basically builds up that Keptn command, and then for debugging we can see what the response is, and then here it's actually this is maybe enhancement back for you, Johannes, is like the way unless it's changed, there wasn't a way to ask Keptn to output in a JSON type of format, so I can incorporate that in script. So you can see this is kind of a way of like pulling out of the command line output, because I just wanted the Keptn context IDs, because I think it says something like Keptn context ID : some value rather than like a JSON thing. So I had to kind of just deal with it that way. But then this is the logic of the quality gate. So so now you're waiting for Keptn to do its thing, and so you're asking it to, what's passing in my Keptn context. Am I getting this evaluation result? And so it keeps calling that over and over until you actually get a result. And you can see JQ, if you guys haven't used that, that's a really amazing Unix utility for dealing with JSON output. So you can just say, parse my JSON output, basically look for this, nested value inside of the JSON results, and you can pull it out. So that's how we get the status and the score. And then it'll just wait 10 seconds and try again up to 20 times, I think, by default. So then when it's done, now you can kind of see those values. And then this is the logic I was talking about. So based on your rule, pass on warning, fail on warning, you can ignore it, or it has some logic to look at the results. So if I passed, I passed. If it's a warning, was I failing on warning? If I was, get out. If not, I passed with the warning, or it just straight up failed. So exit 1 will then be the Unix result code, which will then stop our pipeline. So with those two scripts said, let me go to the what does the GitHub pipeline look like to implement that. So let's go back to my GitHub Actions repo. And now this is, if you're not familiar with GitHub Actions, what it does when you build one of these pipelines, it builds a special directory called .github workflows, and then you have a declarative pipeline file in I chose YAML format. So if we look at our I called it automation evaluation. This is now the pipeline code that will invoke the Keptn runner, which will in turn invoke those two scripts. So here you could see I have a couple, and so this, just let me walk you through this. So that little syntax may not be obvious, but by adding that, this is how I can trigger it manually. So normally, if you could build logic to say on, check into master, for example, or limit it to certain branches or whatever. But this is the syntax to say, let me run it manually. Okay. Then I'm building up a couple environment variables just because it's a little bit hard-coded here for demo purposes, but you can see I'm putting in my evaluation rule, and these are the other options. Here's how I construct the labels, and so GitHub, like Jenkins and other tools, has built-in variables, so I'm just grabbing some built-in variables here. And then this is how I build the URL back to the job. So when you remember, I showed you the Keptn bridge, that label linked back to the job. That's how I do that there. And then here's how you invoke it. So it's really simple. So now I was mentioning you can just call the Docker image like you saw kind of manually when I said Docker run. It's like, here's the image. Here are some of the other, here's all the values that it's expecting. And this initializes that automation. And so now you're basically calling the shell scripts that are in there. So if I just want to call the Keptn sh, again, which could take any Keptn command, it's get project. If I want to run the SLO validation, it's just saying do the SLO validation. And then if you remember in the code, it was expecting all of these parameters. So the setup is you set up these environment variables, and then you just simply, this one you wouldn't really necessarily have to run. You could just say SLO validation, and that's how it works.
So that means if I want to do anything that you have not yet implemented, like let's say Keptn create project or Keptn create service, I can easily do it with just calling this Keptn sh. Please
That's correct.
stay at
that's exactly right.
Yeah. So
right.
with Keptn.sh.
So actually, I have so that segue, Jürgen, is here's another pipeline. So I have another one called automation onboard. So and this one actually shows that file mount option. So let me just do one step. So in the same repo example, I have a Keptn folder that contains my shipyard file, right, which is how I set up my project. I have my Dynatrace config, which is saying I want to go off of a query of a dashboard. Here's my SLI file, which in this case is Dynatrace. So I'm using the this is kind of the out of the box one, if you will. My tagging rules, assuming that it's just service and stage, is set up for my service, and then my SLO file, which is here. So then back to your kind of point, the pipeline file. Let me go back. Sorry. Pipeline, and I have the onboard. Now this will make sense. So now it's saying, hey, my shipyard files is in my relative Keptn directory shipyard. My SLO file is here. My Dynatrace config is here. My SLI is here. Now start that image up, pass in those values, and then now exactly what you just said. Now, actually, I didn't touch upon this one, but creating a Dynatrace secret syntax-wise is a little tricky. So I have a third Unix shell script, and I'll show you that's specific to building the Dynatrace secret. But here are all the things you were just saying, right? So now all you can just say is, hey, Keptn, create project, blah, 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 right? Configure project, create service,
I think that's
create thing with a Dynatrace entry. So it's really simple now to just, if you know the Keptn CLI and all the validation that takes place in the CLI, essentially all that Keptn SH is doing your auth, and then just letting the Keptn CLI do all the validations that it internally has, so I don't have to reproduce any of that stuff. As long as I just call it like that with the right parameters, it should work.
Cool. I think what's important is how can someone best contribute to this. So there are parts on the demos. They are on DT demos. So that's more the demo part.
Right.
And everything
Right.
else lives on in the Keptn sandbox.
What I think would be great is if people would, I'm sorry, let me go back to the Keptn sandbox, right? This is what we're talking about. So in here, you can see that I have, documented a couple use cases, like perform the quality gate. So if you look at each of these things, I've built a help file to kind of explain the use case, explain kind of the script logic I just explained to you, documented all the parameters that go into it, kind of given like a little example. Also in that test folder, there's a bunch of more examples as I tested it locally. But then what's interesting is if we could build what I guess what would be cool by the community is to try this out in other pipelining tools, that can support a Docker image. So I know, for example, like GitLab can do it, right? I know that Jenkins can do it, like different tools can do it. And I think it'd be cool just to kind of prove out, the usability of it in different tools, things like that. I would say, did these scripts the way I wrote them make sense? Like again, so Dynatrace secret, again, that's unique to a Dynatracey thing, but what it's only because the syntax, when you do this Keptn command, you really have to carefully construct all these literal key pair values, like in the exact way. And so to me, from my testing, it was just a lot easier to say, hey, if I just pass in, the URL and tokens for Keptn and Dynatrace, then let this script do it all and made sure it did it the right way. And that's so then all you're really doing is just say, hey, create Dynatrace secret, go, right? But then the Keptn one this should work for anything, right? I think, I know there's, you probably see some stuff in here, like I think as you guys are enhancing the CLI, like to suppress some of these debug messages, this would be good.
So
see if that's actually working right, stuff like that.
Rob, I have one question.
Yep.
Can I also use it if I just want to have a Docker container that has the Keptn CLI installed? Because maybe I want to do in some other tools, just let's say a Keptn trigger sequence, whatever. So I can make use of this. It's living on Keptn automation or Keptn sandbox, Keptn automation, and I can just use the Docker container, pull it, and if I want to kind of jump into the container, and I already have the have it. And it's
exactly. So this image, right? Yeah. To your
version.
point, Jürgen, like I have in here currently, I push it to. So again, if you cloned it and you want to do it your own way, because again, it's sort of like I did, sandbox, but I call it the image name. This is a Docker Hub repo where I've been putting things under DT demos, whatever, right? So then it'll build it and push it. So it's not really pipeliney, but it's a little utility script. But right, so absolutely. So the repo right now, if you just wanted to try it, what I'd recommend is, and I have this in the README file, but there's a test folder, and there's so what I was saying is basically make your own copy of this test sh script. If you call it test.sh, it's in the git ignore, so it won't be checked back in. But then this is where you can build, program in your values that you want to use, your testing purposes, and then you can just try it out locally here, right? So you could just say, because all these methods are in that testing library, on your own, right? So then you could just sort of use this as a local way to try it out, right? Um, you just uncomment the ones you want to do, you override your variables the way you want to do it. And this is like a real good way to kind of locally test it here. And then this could then be incorporated in scripts outside of a pipeline or inside of a pipeline the way I was doing it. But absolutely, it's really just a Docker image at the end of the day, right? So when you look
So
at
what we
these
could
use
do is,
cases, you just do it like this, right? That's really all you're doing. It's like Docker run whatever parameters it's expecting, call the shell script. That's it.
what we could do is that we just push this image as an official image of the Keptn sandbox, because on Docker Hub there is also the Keptn sandbox organization, and usually like the Locust service, Litmus service, Prometheus service, they all go on one official image, so that we know the exact thing that is built here is actually, like, we know the code that you see on GitHub is also the trusted code that we now find on Docker Hub. So it's not different repositories.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can build
That'd be
because
great.
we already have all these automation parts. It's actually built with GitHub Actions. And then each time you do a new release or each time you commit a new version, then we can automatically put it there. And I can send you the links how other repositories are doing this. And since you're already familiar with GitHub
Yeah.
Actions, I'm pretty sure that we can figure this out.
Yeah, this would be great because you could see like how this thing works is, I can just change this to, actually, if you notice, you guys changed it already, or this my environment's already 9.2. I would just basically change this. I could change this to, 1. I could change my README file to say, we're going to say this is 9.2, this is 0.1, right? So I could just make a change like this, and then I could say build push. And so I'm building it, and instead of, you'd have your own automation to kind of build and push it, but yeah, so now I would have 9.2. Oops, I'm gonna do it again, sorry. And I'm pushing it up.
Yeah.
And if I was to go back to, the pipeline tool, wherever that went, if I came back to this guy here, went to workflows, SLO validation. Just gonna do it real time here. Edit it. We'll be optimistic here. This is like a demo on the fly here, right?
Yeah, sure. Then you can just use the other version. So we do have it as GitHub Actions that do it directly on a new release, for example. So we can just copy this and you can reuse it if you want. Then it will be,
yeah, that'd be great.
Keptn sandbox that just aligns it, and you don't have to do this manually because like all the credentials, if someone wants to contribute, they won't have the credentials for DT demos. So it's best if it's
right. Yeah. So this is sandbox, and if this demo works for you guys, yeah, let's elevate it up a little bit and let more people try. And like, yeah, like it's out there to clone, and I tried to add a lot to the README files, so you could see it and try it. And again, you could do it locally without really incorporating yet into some pipelining tool. You kind of work the kinks out, get it to work with your sample app, and then once you get it working, then you can automate it with a pipeline tool. Hopefully this, yeah, actually I think this is what I was trying to do. So here that warning that if you remember, like you used to say, hey, you need to upgrade to 9.02, but see now that error is fixed because now I just have a different container, refer to a new version, and everything works like it did before.
Cool. Pretty cool.
So cool, pretty cool.
Yeah. I just want to open up discussion for community. Are there any other questions from the community?
Not a question, but really cool what you built there, Rob.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely don't take all the credit because this concept of being able to, we a lot of times we've used the word Docker runner, so being able to encapsulate some utility in the Docker container allows you to version it and then basically allow it to be a little more portable, so you don't have to install that utility. So you can certainly install the Keptn CLI and do different things, but it's now just sort of contained, and then you get all the benefits of the binary doing all the things that are built into the binary for you, so you don't have to replicate all that logic. Because I did take an approach, I have another sample, I think I might have deleted it off the sandbox, where I was actually doing all this by calling natively the Keptn's API. So there is a little overhead of having the binary, but it's so small that I think it's worth the trade-off of being, pure just API calls. But that's the benefit of the CLI. There's quite a bit of logic in there that if you were to build all the API calls yourself to Keptn directly and parse it and deal with it, and that tends to, if you, as you saw, like I just changed the version of the Keptn CLI, I know I'm going to be compatible with the next version. Where if the API changes, I might have to go through a number of places and deal with a bunch of API, payloads or parameter changes, one by one, which could be more maintenance. So, but yeah,
Absolutely.
cool. Glad you like it. Yeah. And don't hesitate to reach out to the community. I'm also on the Keptn Slack channel directly. So if you have a question about getting started, not a problem. I'm in the Keptn community. And then as Jürgen said, if anyone on the call is going to be out at KubeCon, we'll be at the Keptn booth and we'll be able to kind of talk more. And if you meet face to face, if you happen to be there as well. So I guess that's it.
Thanks.
I do.
Thanks,
yeah.
I
You're quite welcome.
I was just adding this also to the meeting document that you're looking forward to new contributions. And talking about the meeting document, I will hand it over if there are no more questions for Rob. Thanks so much, Rob. I think it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to see this also in other pipelining tools or other, let's say automation tools, whatever that's used out there. And I'm handing over to, I think, Johannes to briefly go through the list of PRs from the community. And then I know that Suraj is joining here also. And he had a question on the Keptn Slack. So maybe we can take 1 or 2 minutes also to talk about this question. And I know that we have to close it a little bit earlier today, but let's see what time permits.
Okay. I think I can be really quick because before the meeting, I took a look at the open PRs. There's still the open PR that Klaus is going to review, but it's in progress and still a comment left there. And we got a new contribution from Adam Gardner. When we just take a quick look on that. What he did is was actually just mentioning here in the Keptn CLI where we have the Keptn create secret command that the create command also supports creating a secret, and this is what he added. But as far as I know, we need his he needs to sign the commit so that our DCO is happy. But when this is done, we can merge it. And before going to Suraj PR, I just want to mention that currently we have 4 open PRs, but those are for instrumenting Keptn with OpenTelemetry. We have a close look on that, and we are also in touch with Joao, who is doing this and instrumenting Keptn components with OpenTelemetry. And then let's jump to this PR. I guess this is from Suraj, as he also added it to the list. Do you have questions or do you need some help?
Yeah. Actually, this PR I think is close to ready for review.
You're cutting off.
Basically, go test link that. Yeah, just started to the doc as well. So basically it was failing because of timeout, and I think that was something related to my own computer. So when I ran the CI and the PR, it seems to have passed. So looks like a problem on my end.
Okay.
So I think the PR is close, ready for review. So I'll mark it ready for review soon. And I think I had one more question. So yesterday I had asked about the issue 5403 around implementing Linkerd. Sorry about that. Let me just quickly link you the issue. I think that's the one Jürgen is talking about. Thanks, Jürgen, for replying yesterday. So just put it in the chat. I think
Yep.
Yeah, this one.
This one.
Yeah, I just said out. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to mention regarding this issue that I edited, because folks from the Linkerd community were reaching out to us and they asked for supporting Linkerd. They will work on that, and they were just asking for an issue so that they can then track their progress on this. But let's say this one is reserved to folks from the Linkerd community.
Oh, okay, I see. All right. Yeah.
Should we maybe get a comment then,
That's a
or-
good idea.
or assign yourself and comment on this so that it's not then, because it also says help wanted. So
Sure.
I can understand that.
Yeah, that's what I saw actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry for that. But if it's already been some conversations and they basically just needed documentation to that they know to get started, then we will keep it for them. Or we can also directly ping them and ask them to assign themselves.
Assign themselves, yeah.
That would be best.
Yeah.
Okay, Suraj, if you're ready, then you already did. Okay, you changed the state from this PR. Oh, no.
This one is different.
It's this one.
Let me do that.
Sorry,
let me do that right now.
All right, and then the team will take a look at it.
Thank you. So I think this was my second issue. So if there's anything else, I can take a look at that. Yeah.
Cool.
I think so. We still have a list of good first issues. I know it's your second issue, so you're already familiar with this. Please have a look at other issues that might be interesting for you. But what I will also ask you is on the Keptn community page, if you could also please add an issue there to for us to level you up as an official contributor to Keptn. Because we have a kind of a community ladder, and same goes actually for also for Rob. If you want to list contributions that you've already made to Keptn, it's more on the Keptn core project, not so much on the Keptn ecosystem, but still you can add this on the community page. There is an issue template. Yeah, so it also says this, and I think if you go to the new issue, then it will also ask for if you want to use this template, and yeah, open a membership request, and we can add you then as an official member to the Keptn GitHub organization, and you also have this on your badge and kind of a appreciation that you contributed to Keptn, and then you can go up from a contributor to an approver to a maintainer. But it's
Sure.
just
Can you show us what a badge looks like for someone else?
I
don't think I've ever seen one.
Badge. It's the badge from GitHub where it says member. Whenever you do something on Keptn, then it will say member, otherwise it's more or less a little bit more anonymous. But so we can also see who is already a member and how many members are contributing. So it's great for us to see this. So it's on github.com/keptn/community. Just open up an issue here. Also ping us on Slack so we don't forget it. Everything that needs to be done is defined in the GitHub issue itself. You would just link the PRs that you already done. Talk to some of us beforehand so that we know about this issue and we can basically sponsor you, and that's it.
Awesome, great.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Okay,
Thank you.
that's all from my side as well.
Okay. So I hope also, is it Suraj, or do we pronounce it correctly, the name? But we hope also your questions have been answered, and looking forward to your request for the community or membership. And
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
thank you. And yeah, with this, I think we can close it. And let's meet again next week, Thursday, same time, in the Keptn community. And yeah, have a great rest of the day, everyone. And if there's anything, we always have the Keptn Slack, the Keptn Twitter, our YouTube channel, where also this video will go. So a lot of other resources to check out. And I'm really looking forward to the next meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.